He was the king before Messi, before Ronaldo, before Maradona. A name that echoes through the stadiums of history, a legend whispered in every language football is spoken. Pele. But beyond the 3 World Cups, beyond the 1,000+ goals, lies a story you might not know. A story of a boy from a poor town in Brazil who polished shoes to buy his first football. A story of how a global icon was born and how he changed the world's most beautiful game forever. This is the untold story of Pele, the king who started it all. Our story begins not in a grand stadium, but in the humble town of Três Coraques, Brazil. Born Edson Arantes do Nascimento in 1940, life wasn't easy. His father, Dondinho, was a football player himself, but a knee injury cut his career short, plunging the family into poverty. Young Edson, or Daico, as his family called him, saw his father's dreams crumble. He watched his mother, Celeste, work tirelessly to make ends meet. To help out, he'd shine shoes on the streets, earning just enough to survive. But even in hardship, football was his escape. He and his friends couldn't afford a real ball, so they'd stuff old socks with newspaper and rags, creating a makeshift sphere to kick around the dusty streets. It was here, in these barefoot games, that the magic began. His father, despite his own heartbreak, became his first coach, teaching him the fundamentals, the control, the vision. He would spend hours with Daico, showing him how to strike the ball, how to read the game. Daico absorbed it all, his talent shining brighter than the shoes he polished. The nickname Pele came during his school days. He mispronounced the name of a local goalkeeper he admired, Bile, and his friends started teasingly calling him Pele. He hated it at first. He felt it was a silly, meaningless name. Little did he know that name would soon become the most famous in all of sports. At just 15 years old, his life changed forever. A local youth coach, Valdemar de Brito, saw something extraordinary in the young boy. He knew he was witnessing a once-in-a-generation talent. He took Pele to the city of Santos to try out for the professional club, Santos FC. De Brito famously told the directors at Santos, "This boy will be the greatest football player in the world." They must have thought he was crazy. This skinny kid from the countryside? The greatest ever? But then they saw him play. In his very first training session, Pele was electric. His speed, his skill, his two-footed ability, and his incredible football intelligence were undeniable. He signed his first professional contract at 15 and made his senior team debut that same year, scoring in his first game. The whispers started. A star was being born. Within a year, at just 16 years old, he was the top scorer in the entire Brazilian league and was called up to the national team. The world was about to meet Pele. The year is 1958. The World Cup is in Sweden. Brazil arrives with a secret weapon, a 17-year-old kid nobody has ever heard of. Pele started the tournament on the bench, nursing a knee injury. But when he finally got his chance to play, he seized it with a force that shook the footballing world. He scored the only goal in the quarterfinal against Wales, his first World Cup goal. Then, in the semi-final against France, he exploded, scoring a stunning hat-trick. But it was the final, against the host nation Sweden, that he cemented his legend. In front of a packed stadium and a global television audience, the 17-year-old delivered a masterclass. He scored 2 goals, one of which is still considered among the greatest in World Cup history. He controlled a high ball on his chest, flicked it over a defender's head without it touching the ground, and then volleyed it into the back of the net. It was pure genius. Brazil won 5-2 their first ever World Cup. As the final whistle blew, the young Pele collapsed into his teammates' arms, sobbing uncontrollably. The boy who couldn't afford a football was now a world champion. He had carried the hopes of a nation on his teenage shoulders and delivered. From that moment on, Pele was no longer just a player. He was a phenomenon. He returned to Santos and led them into a golden era, winning countless domestic and international titles. His team became footballing royalty, touring the world like rock stars to play exhibition matches. Crowds flocked to see the king. He possessed a complete game like no one before him. He was fast, strong, brilliant in the air despite being relatively short, and could score with either foot from any angle. He scored headers, bicycle kicks, blistering free kicks, and slaloming solo runs. He scored an incredible 1,283 goals in his career, a record that still stands. But his impact went far beyond the goals. Pele played with a joy, a freedom, a ginga, that unique Brazilian swagger and rhythm. He made football beautiful. He turned the sport into an art form. He was the first truly global black sporting superstar, a symbol of hope and excellence for millions around the world. His fame became so immense that in 1969, a 48-hour ceasefire was declared in Nigeria's civil war, just so both sides could watch Pele play an exhibition match in Lagos. Think about that. His presence on a football pitch was enough to pause a war. That wasn't just stardom. That was a different level of influence. The 1962 and 1966 World Cups were bittersweet. In '62, he was injured early in the tournament, but his Brazilian teammates, inspired by him, went on to win the trophy again. In '66, he was brutally targeted by opposition defenders, literally kicked out of the tournament. It was a low point, and he vowed never to play in a World Cup again. But the world couldn't let him go that easily. The call of the 1970 World Cup in Mexico was too strong. Brazil had assembled what many consider the greatest international team of all time, and they needed their king to lead them. Pele returned, more mature, more of a playmaker. He was the conductor of a footballing orchestra. The team played with a symphony of attacking flair, and Pele was at the heart of it all. They swept through the tournament, culminating in a magnificent 4-1 victory over Italy in the final. Pele scored the opening goal with a powerful header and assisted 2 others. The image of him being carried off the field on his teammates' shoulders, holding his 3rd World Cup trophy, is one of the most iconic in sports history. He is still the only player, male or female, to have ever won 3 World Cups. After conquering the world, he embarked on one final pioneering mission. In 1975, he came out of semi-retirement to sign for the New York Cosmos in the fledgling North American Soccer League. At the time, soccer was a minor sport in the United States. Pele changed that. His arrival was a sensation. Suddenly, massive crowds, including celebrities like Muhammad Ali and Robert Redford, were flocking to watch soccer games. He filled stadiums across the country and put the sport on the map in America. He wasn't just a player anymore. He was an ambassador, a missionary for the beautiful game. He laid the foundation for the sport's growth in the U.S., a legacy that continues to this day. His final game in 1977 was an exhibition between the Cosmos and his beloved Santos. He played one half for each team. It was a fitting farewell for a man who belonged to the whole world of football. In a tearful speech, he famously urged the crowd to chant, "Love, love, love." It was the perfect message from a man whose love for the game had brought so much joy to so many. After retirement, his status as a global icon only grew. He became a UNICEF ambassador, a UNESCO champion for sport, and Brazil's extraordinary minister for sport. He used his fame to fight for social causes, particularly for the rights of children in poverty. He never forgot where he came from, the boy shining shoes on the streets of Truscorix. Pele wasn't just the first number 10. He defined what it meant to be a number 10. He wasn't just a goal scorer. He was an artist, an innovator, a leader. He showed the world that football could be more than just a game. It could be a source of national pride, a unifier of people, and a vessel for pure, unadulterated joy. Every great player that came after him, from Cruyff to Zidane, from Messi to Mbappé, has played in the shadow of his legacy. He set the standard. He was the original. So next time you watch a breathtaking goal or see a player control the ball with impossible grace, remember the boy who learned his craft with a sock full of newspaper. Remember the teenager who wept on the world stage, and the king who could stop a war. Remember the name that means football. Remember Pele, the king who started it all. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more deep dives into the legends of sports. See you next time.